glasses.
Yeah.
You got it. Rod and I have used the terms enlightening moments. An enlightening moment's an aha moment. It's that moment when you're available for inspiration to come to you. It's not so much intuition where you're intuiting. Rather, it's a place of complete balance where your mind is completely still. And in that moment, something reveals itself. Invitations come. Those individuals who are successful in their career or in their personal life, they remain open and receptive to these enlightening moments. Ram is the principle of sustaining. It showed that Ram was a king, was a prince. He lived married, he worked in the world, he was a great person. So it shows that you can be in the world and still keep that connection to the transcendental. So Gandhi, it makes sense, would be a devotee of Ram, Vishnu, because his whole principle was to serve, to give. And that if you just think of yourself, which somehow in the West we know, people have gotten a little bit, they've forgotten that principle. And so they become so self-centered. When that happens, you lose the connection. So Gandhi understood that, and his whole life was dedicated to it. So what you're seeing here is the embodiment of the Vedas. So we live in stressful times, and yet there's been traditions in around the planet that allow us to remain in balance and allow us to remain healthy. These traditions have been around for thousands of years, but they need to be updated. We need to apply them to our culture and how we're working in the world. So our enlightening moments is that. It comes from those ancient traditions of the Vedas and the Patanjali Sutras, the Yoga Darshan. But we're now bringing it up to date so that you can take that, live in the world, and be free. So I have a question for you. Well, everyone wants to be peaceful. Everyone wants to be successful. If you knew that there were certain thoughts, there was a way that you were organizing your mind, and that was the problem. Not the situations in your life, but actually how you were organizing your mind. Then, would you be interested in knowing how to exit those disturbing thoughts and allow the wisdom, the intuition that's already there to flow through you? I like that. So we're in India. Things don't go the way that your Western mind believes they should go. In the moment that you react, we call that an issue activation. It's that point where you forget that everything's a reflection bringing up in you what needs to be looked at. It's important to know it and to know what to do with it. The beauty of doing this work is simple. Once you know who you are, everything else just reveals itself from there. Rod and I got our relationship tools after 40 years of studying yoga and meditation. The whole concept of yoga is that there's a unified field, and that consciousness, our awareness, can be more present, can be more available. Now, what it is that happens that prevents that consciousness from being present is essential. Something occurs in us. Something happens inside, an explosion, a reaction, something that limits how much consciousness is present. Unless you know what it is that's disturbing you, and unless you have the remedy for it, unless you can deactivate that reaction, you're going to live your life in a much lower state of consciousness. Enlightening moments are available if you're prepared. I want you to imagine this. You're with a friend, or you're with your partner, or you're at work and your boss, and they say something, or a situation comes up, and you react. Most people are not trained to notice that, number one, the situation isn't the cause of the reaction, but rather the situation is the catalyst to the reaction. In our frustration cycle, we're going to offer you an opportunity to know exactly where you are, how you got there, and then the solution to it. So there's situations, and then there's this reaction that takes place. As soon as it reacts, most people have a big story. Do you get stuck in your story? It's important to know that. Entering into the temple, you offer something. And it's so important to know that in life, that unless you have that channel of giving, of offering, that then the divine can't flow through you. So in India, they totally understand that. In our work, what we know is that if you focus on others, then you're going to receive the wisdom you need in order to be successful in your life. Life's short. It goes by so quickly. It's important to know what it is we're doing that's preventing us from just taking it in fully, experiencing it, being open to the invitations. It's important to know that. That something happens in our life, a situation comes up, and the next thing we know we're agitated. If we're quick and if we practice, we can be aware at the moment that we're agitated that our mind creates a story about it. So as soon as the situation arrives, the agitation occurs. Immediately the mind makes up a story. Now, here's the thing. In order to maintain your sanctity, you have to realize that the situation didn't create the agitation. And our story, in fact, about the situation might be inaccurate. So we have to understand, how is it that this frustration builds inside of us? And we also had to need to how to deactivate the agitation and get out of the frustration cycle. The frustration cycle is one of the most important tools that we've come up with in our work together. And we would love to share it with you. So all of the practices that were designed were to get our mind clear enough so that we could be conduits for a consciousness and awareness that brings us guidance, allows us to feel compassion and love. So in this system of yoga, it's not so much what you do, it's what you don't do. So an agitation in the mind, what we call vrittis, that agitation will create waves, and those waves will not allow you to experience the consciousness in its purest state. So we're going to today discover how to use the mala. And a mala is one of an amazing, and all religions have some type of mala, but a mala is an instrument that allows you, when you're using it, to take the physical movement of your body and use it to help create clarity in your mind. So just like walking meditations, you take a mala, and with each, when you touch it with your two fingers, what happens is you are connecting your brain to the movement. That then grounds you. And in grounding yourself, you repeat Om, Shalom, Amen, Hari Om. And as you repeat it, you're focusing on it, and the touch and the sound go together. Your brain recognizes it. Then you move to the next one. And once again, Om, Hari Om, Shalom. And as you touch it and repeat, there is a unifying experience between the mind and the body. You do this often enough, and your mind becomes clear, and your body becomes completely synchronized with your mind, the state of yoga. So most of us are very familiar with the saying that the only thing permanent in life is change. Well, do you have the tools to deal with this ever-changing field? Are you comfortable enough in yourself? Are you secure enough in yourself? And more importantly, do you have the relationship tools in order to deal with this ever-changing world of relationships? Lord Shiva is the Shiva of change, the God of change. Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiv. So one energy brings things into creation. That's relationship start. Then Vishnu in India is the God of sustaining, of allowing things to remain, although temporary, at least they're in some type of formation for a few moments. But it's Shiva that makes everything change. So do you have the relationship tools that are necessary in order to deal with the amazingly wonderful, hectic, crazy world of relationships? That's important.